Good afternoon, and my name is Jonathan Braffett. I'm an attorney at law in Barbados, and this is the Fake Bajan podcast. And the reason for the name of the podcast being Fake Bajan is my mom and dad were born and bred in Barbados, and they're true Bajans through and through. And but you know how it is in Barbados. I grew up in Barbados, but I returned to Barbados in 2010. And most of my friends started calling me a returning national. And then, that trailed off after a time though, so I made it back to full Bajan status. But, um, I often, my wife, whose mother is Bajan, she grew up in London, so my wife often tells me, oh, when I try to tell her or interpret some Bajan situation for her, like we had a one the other day where we met someone named Mr. Darimpo. And so I explained to her that this is a relatively a common Bajan name. But of course, she didn't believe me. So, she said, well, you're a fake Bajan anyway. And this is because she called me a fake Bajan because I was born in the UK and I returned to Barbados and grew up. And so she likes to claim that I'm not as much of a Bajan as her. So this Bajan debate will be going on, but I thought, you know what, my name for this podcast is going to be Fake Bajan because that's what my wife calls me. So as an attorney at law, um, the reason why we're doing this podcast is because I, like we all do, meet enough Bajans everywhere. I meet Bajans everywhere I go, whether it be London, US, Dubai, met Bajans in China. We all know they got Bajans in China now. Wherever I go, I meet Bajans and I talk to people. And so, one of the things that I talk a lot to people about is family. Family, property is a big deal for us as Bajans. Um, you know, Everybody, has family and property issues to deal with of one type or another. And so, as so I am an international tax lawyer, which means that in Barbados we call it international business, and in Barbados we do a lot of international business. We have done for many years since 1980s, and the Prime Minister Al Barrow was a very good friend of the Canadian Premier Paul Martin. And Barbados did a double tax treaty back in the 80s. And so international business in Barbados is a thing, and we have built on that in successive administrations, both DLP and BLP and all that kind of stuff. And successive governments in Barbados have continued to build out international business until this day. And a lot of Bajans work in international business, but the truth is that as far as I can see, and this maybe just be limited to the people that I know, is I have from time to time I have filled in Bajans people on various things, things that are in the international system that could work for them based on what they're doing. Some of us enter into international businesses. We just travel wide and far. We got the diaspora, which is we have families in U.S., UK, and Canada, and elsewhere, and so I find myself talking to friends, family, colleagues more and more about this. So um, the aim of these videos is not really to promote myself and my firm. I'll be very frank. The aim of this really is just to share some knowledge, because often sometimes you don't have time. You're talking to people, you want to give them the information, but if I haven't laid down the information or put it down like on a video in public or whatever, like if I reckon if I put these videos on YouTube, then I could say, hey man, just check out these YouTube videos, and you will select what you want, and away you go. So that's the purpose of these videos, and I will explain that again in the future. So, one of the first things that I want to talk to, and I'll do a number of videos on this, is a lot of us, a lot of families in Barbados have property. My video man just told me it's 5 minutes in, so I got 5 minutes. So this is just the beginning. A lot of Bajans have property. We have families, and I want to talk a little bit about what's called a trust. Now, a trust is something that a family can use to provide generational wealth. But it's not only for generational wealth, it can immediately be used to protect the parents, because as we get older, sometimes in families, parents have concerns about how to protect themselves while giving or helping young people with property and things like that. I will explain more in another video, don't worry. You can protect children, young children, older children, sometimes children that need to be looked after. There is something called a trust that can basically help with this, where our children are going into marriage, and you may want to provide property or resources for your children, but of course, if they're going into relationships and getting married, when we're young, there's always the concern about the potential for divorce and disagreements and different things like that. And so a trust can help navigate and protect the family in a lot of these situations. There are more things that you can do, lots more things that we can do with trust, but I will start with these fundamental things. So a trust is exactly what it sounds like. It is not a company, it's not a partnership, but it is a legal entity. And it is based very much on the law of equity. Now, the law of equity has a lot to do with property rights, different types of rights, but it is kind of what it sounds like. The law of equity is all about fairness, righteous, what is right. Let him who comes to equity come with clean hands. It deals with confidentiality. The word prudential is a good word to be associated with the law of equity. And so by setting up a family trust, you can protect yourself, your children, your husband, you can protect your property. There are business applications for it as well. And so all of these things we will go into in various, different other videos. But Barbadians, as a Barbadian citizen, the law of equity and the law of trust applies to you. Now, I talk about trust, and I'm starting with trust because a lot of people in other countries like the UK, US, and Canada use trust extensively, way more extensively than here in Barbados. And I'm not entirely sure why. It's just kind of like something that we may or may not have done in the past. But listen, if you have, I'm not saying, no, this is not an advert. I'm not saying to you guys, hey, come to Jonathan and talk about trust. Listen, most lawyers, many lawyers in Barbados know about trusts, okay? So if you want to set up a family trust and you have a trusted relationship, good long-term relationship with your lawyer, someone that you know, that you work with, you don't need to contact me. Go and speak to your lawyer, okay? The other thing you can do before you go and speak to your lawyer, and I will say this at the end of every video, is in today's world, you can go on Google and you can go on ChatGPT and you can ask basic questions. How do I protect myself using a trust? What is a trust? What is the law of equity? How do I protect my family using a trust? And you can get a lot of basic information. It might not necessarily be information that you could use to implement a trust. You do need some help from a lawyer to do that, but at least you can bring to yourself the understanding first before you go and speak to your lawyer about it. So in the next video, I will begin outlining what a trust is, how you set one up, and how you use it, and I will carry on and explain how we can all use trust to protect our family as Barbadians. So speak to you soon in the next video. Thank you.